Hi, just thought I'd share with you a method I use for pre-shaping balsa prior to either sheeting a wing, such as this wing I'm doing here now, or a round fuselage, maybe a cowl. So I've got this wing and I need to sheet the front leading edge. The balsa I'm using, it's 2.5mm and it's quite it's not hard balsa, but it's not soft. It's quite tough. It's kind of in the middle somewhere. And you can see, to actually sheet that, it hasn't got much of a bend, but it's going to put quite a lot of tension on the front of that wing, and it won't be easy to glue that into place. So what I've done is I've pre-shaped it, and here we go. Here's the piece I've done. This is just dried overnight, and just have a look at this and see how it fits. So I cut the balsa to size first of all, and there we go. That now is more or less the right shape. You can just see the curve on it there. So it's not huge, but it's just enough to take out the tension. That will glue down there nice and easy now. The way I did this is, as I said, I cut my piece of balsa to size. I then determined that it was right at the edge that needed to be shaped. And I've got some plastic I put down on my cutting mat. I've got a 10mm square carbon fibre rod, which I'm using as a lift, and I put that under the plastic. I've mainly put the plastic down because I don't know the effect that the chemical I'm using will have on my mat and on my carbon fibre. So I've just determined the best way to do that, and if I use perhaps a dead straight piece to show you. The chemical I'm using an ammonia based cleaning product. This is just Mr. Muscle for, looks like a kitchen cleaner, tile cleaner, but you can get ammonia based window cleaners. So that's what I'm using. The ammonia in the liquid softens the lignin and allows it to be shaped, and then it dries out and retains that shape. Now, there is evidence that the ammonia does weaken the wood. It's not as strong. That's coming from people who actually soak it for extended periods. What I'm talking about is just dampening this and letting it dry over a couple of hours, which, yes, probably will have a detrimental effect on the wood's strength. But you have to weigh that up against the tension that it's going to put into your structure by not being bent. And this is still pretty strong, and I think well strong enough for the job. So anyway, that's just that caveat. To get the bend right, what I've done is I've used a couple of ribs. These were spare ribs that I didn't use, and that I've got lying around. So let me just move my wing a little bit more out of the way. So I soak this, mainly just the edge that needs to be bent, and then put a weight on it, and then just determine how much lift I need to get the correct amount of bend in the wood. Let's have a look. So there, you can just use the ribs just as a guide, and you know, it doesn't need to be perfect. And as with the tapered wing, I obviously varied the amount of bend that I needed. Actually, that looks a lot better for the bigger rib. What I actually did when I first did it was to put the plastic over and then weight it down, and then after a bit I held it, I removed the plastic and let it dry out. but we're in the dry season here where I am. We haven't had rain for 6 months, and the temperatures are in my workshop are in the mid 30 degrees C. So I'm just trying to prevent it from drying too quickly, and it does dry very quickly. So that's how I've done it, and like I say, it works very well. It allows me to take the tension out of the balsa so that it can be glued on much easily. I'll just show you with a small piece of wood how well this will work. Okay, I've got a piece of a balsa here. This has got a very slight curve in it. It was just a piece I was messing around with earlier. But if I put some of this liquid into a small tub, get a brush and liberally liberally soak this into the wood, and I'll just show you what can be done. It's because of the ammonia. I mean, it's a cleaning product, so it's not well, I was going to say it's not majorly toxic, but it's good to do it with a bit of a ventilation because of the ammonia in it. It's not that good to breathe. And if we turn this over, okay, well, I've now given this quite a liberal soaking, and I've left it for a while just to let that soak in. I've obviously put a lot on here, and a lot more than I would do or did on my wing sheeting. But I just really wanted to demonstrate how well this can work. So what I'll do is I will strap this to this tin, and then we can come back in a couple of hours when it's nice and dry. So just strap that nice and tight, just with a bit of Scotch Magic tape. Oops, shouldn't have started on the wet wood. And just one more around the middle, starting on the tin this side, this time. So what I will do now is just leave that to dry, and we'll see. I mean, as I've said, this is quite an extreme case, just to show the powers of ammonia on the lignin. Well, this is well and truly dried now, so if we take off the tape and just have a look and see how this has come out. There we go. So, I mean, that is that hasn't moved since it's come off there. It hasn't lost any of its original, or sorry, any of its shape that we've put in it. It is still really, really strong. I know people say that it weakens the wood, but I think for what we're doing, unless it's a really, really critical structure, I think it's probably insignificant. So there you go. If you want to make some cowls, or you want to make some curved balsa for your sheeting on your fuselage, it's a really good way to go.